Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness. This is episode 135.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Be Well Together podcast. It's Sheila Webster here with Cheryl Rickers. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Sheila.
And we are doing a month in review. For those of you who have listened to our 100th anniversary, Cheryl joined us for that, and we did a whole review of the 100 episodes. So what we're hoping to do is doing a month in review. We're going to talk about the month of June. So episodes 123, 24, 25, and 26. So Cheryl, let's start with 123.
Oh, the interview John did with Fiona and Mike Roth about their daughter, Caitlin. It was a tough interview. He did a great job in his interview. Mind you, they are such gracious, wonderful people, the way they have overcome or seem to have overcome what they have gone through in order to help other people, being advocates and educating people on mental health and mental illness. I was riveted to that. I listened to that interview twice. I listened to both episode 123 and 124. As you know, I've lost a young person in my life. You've lost a young person in your life.
Yes.
Not by the same way. Mm-hmm. However, when you lose somebody around in their early 20s, it's very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. And I just thought what they have done, what could have happened to their lives and what they've chosen to do with their circumstances was remarkable.
Yeah. In episode 123, they actually talked about Caitlin, talked about who she was and what she was like. And then, you know, a little bit about what happened and her hospital stay and all that. And it is heartbreaking. And any parent would just find this so heartbreaking. But then in 124, they talked about what you were talking about, the Fill in the Gap program that they're doing, which I know from my experience that the person that I lost in my life, this would have been so helpful. Because these young teenagers, they're young and they have mental illness. They're dealing with their issues and they're treated like adults as soon as they're 18. So the parents are almost locked out of the situation. The doctors aren't allowed to talk to them. The parents can't ask the doctors questions. They have to go through the child, and the child is obviously having, you know, issues. And so they're not often thinking in the right mind. So you've got all those issues. So the fact that they're filling in this gap, I really hope that this really blows up so that they get all those programs running that they were talking about so that other kids can get the help that they need.
Absolutely.
And
I think people need to listen to that interview, especially in 124, when they talk about the filling in the gap, just so people are aware of what they can do to help and become more aware of what's going on with other people and what our system is lacking.
And the hospital, what she was talking about, that you need windows and you need to art on the walls, and you know it can't be so sterile. It has to have, in order for these people to be able to heal, you know, you need all these things, and it's so true, and that's been proven. So yeah, those episodes, if you haven't listened to those, are amazing. And wow, so great that they would do that and talk about it. So yeah, I love that. And anything else that you remember?
In 123, well, I like that the move that body, you know, the line, the only bad workout is the one that didn't happen.
I know.
And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like the best time to plant a tree is 100 years ago. The next best time is now.
Exactly.
You know, it's like one of those things that sounds so cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, just all those sayings. It's so true. You just got to go out there and do it. The flip side, we talked about sir and ma'am. Have you ever had that experience?
Well, my husband went to school in the South, so he calls everybody ma'am.
I didn't know that.
And yeah, because he lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. Oh. And just for a few years, and everybody is ma'am. And I cannot get him to stop it at all. And it drives me crazy, but
it really drives it drives me crazy when young people do it to me. You know what I mean? Because to me, then they're looking at me as an older woman, right? Ma'am, so that really bothers me. When it's someone that's more your age, or older and they're calling you ma'am, I do think it's a little bit of a respect thing. Mm-hmm. So it's a little different, but when those young people call you ma'am and them calling John sir this whole time, and it was a young guy who was serving John and he kept calling him sir, and I was just laughing, and John, it didn't even hit on.
For some reason with men, I think it's different. Like sir is not as bad as ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Although, you know what I think is worse than that? When people say, okay, cheers.
Oh.
Cheers. All the time. Unless you're serving me a drink or something.
Oh, okay. Because I do that. Like I'll serve people a drink and I'm like, oh, there you go. Cheers.
Yeah. Okay. But you're serving a drink.
Yeah.
But I just find people, when you ask them something, oh yeah, okay, cheers.
What is that?
It makes no sense to me. That's what I'm saying. Where's my drink?
Yeah, don't say cheers unless you're serving me a drink.
Someone call me ma'am, but don't say cheers and not hand me something to drink.
Okay, well, there you go. That is hilarious. And 124, what's on your mind was happiness and contentment. I thought that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. Right? Because what is happy, really? You can't live life to be happy because you'll never be happy all the time. And what is happy?
Yeah, but if you're just content, then you're not striving for more. You're just content with what you have. But does that make you happy? It is. It's a bit of a
calendar.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of, it's a balancing of emotions, yes. I thought that was that was really interesting. And on Move That Body, that episode 124, we talked about sleep.
Love my sleep.
And if I don't get my sleep, I am so miserable. There's a few things that I cannot live without. Coffee, sleep, and movement. What about you?
Sleep, coffee, maybe some wine.
There you go.
Yeah.
And 125. We this time did the interview of What's on Your Mind with Elise about the castle when I interviewed her, and I was like, let's have some funnier stories.
Yeah, the gritty stories.
Let's get the gritty details. And we didn't even do like some of the really gritty details because there was a few other students that kind of did stupid things and things happened. So we thought, well, we better not talk about that. But that castle was quite the experience. And I would suggest anyone who is interested in traveling and is figuring out where to go for university, you should check out that program with Queen's.
Yeah, what an awesome experience.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
I really enjoyed parts of the interview with Bronwyn. There was a few things that she said that I thought were really good key points. When she said something about what's shareable is bearable. And it's easy to remember when you say it like that, but feelings are not tolerable in isolation. So there's been times where, your mind, something's going on in your head and you just it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And once you say it out loud, it sort of takes the power away from whatever that mind thing is. And talking to somebody about it, it's like it decreases the stress. It just was another thing, like a simple thing that she said that was like, that makes a lot of sense. So instead of like, if you're feeling it, say it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And sometimes it's hard to do that, right? Because you don't want to say it, or you think it's not logical for you to feel that way, or you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or it's really hard to say it. But I do agree with you that once you get it out there, then the pressure's gone. I don't know. And then you often get a different person's perspective. And then you're like, oh, I never thought about that. Yeah. So I agree with you.
Probably didn't need to freak out.
Well, So that was episode 125. And now we're on episode 126. Acts of kindness was what's on your mind. I decided that after I heard that episode, that I was going to go and pick up garbage. It just like I bike to work every day. So I biked to work and it started pouring. So I was like, John, can you come pick me up? So the next day I decided I was going to walk to work and I was going to pick up garbage while I was walking to work, do my act of kindness, because they were talking about all these things that you can do. Yeah. While I was walking to work, I passed 3 garbage cans and I had so much garbage in my hands that I had to like empty them into these garbage cans. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, why do people do this?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I was actually kind of getting angry instead of feeling great about doing my act of kindness But I did it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this more often because it's a very busy area that I walked on. Like it's, passes a mall and stuff. But still, I don't really understand why people throw their garbage out the window or while they're walking.
It's easier. They're lazy. People can be lazy.
It's just so odd.
Mm-hmm.
And the interview with Andrea Lee, I really enjoyed too. She talked about food prep that time. So I don't usually do food prep. I prep in the sense of I pull my protein out for the day. You know what I mean? So I know, okay, pull my protein out and then I go from there. But she was saying prep that protein, cook it and prep some stuff. And so John started doing quite a bit of prep, which I really enjoy. So he always, every week, he makes chickpeas. And so he spices them and puts onions and all this stuff. So he makes a thing of chickpeas and he makes a thing of beans, which are like refried beans. And it's totally awesome because you can, I can't take you seriously when you're making that face. You don't like beans? You don't like beans?
Well, they're okay. They're not my favorite protein.
Oh my God. Do you like chickpeas?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyways, so John makes these refried beans that are so amazing. He kind of does an Italian kind of spice to them. And it's just great because then you can just open up the fridge and put some cheese, put some hummus, put some lettuce, and you've got a wrap. Like it's so easy. So doing those few little things, it takes him a few hours to do this prep on Sundays, but then he has it for the whole week for lunch. Awesome.
Yes. Yeah, it's so smart. As long as you have a house that's not full of people that are going to eat it all in 2 days.
That's true.
Which often happens in my house. So
yes. Yeah.
I sometimes have to hide the food, but
I know. I remember that. Like I would make food and it would be enough protein that I had for the next day. And I'd wake up the next day and it's all gone. And you're like, oh, I guess someone had a snack. So you're like, oh no. So no, I totally get where you're coming from, but
it's a super, super easy hack just to change the way you eat.
Exactly. Just to have healthy options, right? Yes. So when you open up the fridge, you're not like, oh, I want a chocolate bar, or I'm going to eat, you're like, hey, I'm going to make a wrap, or, it's so awesome. And I really liked the starving artist in episode 126. He was talking about going to see this show, and this violinist was incredibly passionate. I find in violin especially that there's the ones that can play the notes and they're very, very good, but then there's those ones with passion. And when John and I were in Prague, we went to see a symphony and they were playing the Vivaldi's Four Seasons. And I love Vivaldi's Four Seasons, but I've never seen it live. Wow. It was so passionate and unbelievably difficult. And I was blown away. So you can
relate to what he was experiencing.
Yes. And listening to someone playing with that much passion is inspiring. It definitely does something for your soul. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that one.
I liked John's Popup.
His two words
that made a big difference. Yeah.
I know. I was
starting
like,
now.
I know. It's like, okay, starting now. Because you know what? You need to do that. Instead of just being like your negative thoughts and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, that's it. I blew it. And then go off the wagon,
it's just
right?
Like, let's restart, hit the restart, and not everything is undone. You just starting now. It's a new page, new
starting now. That is perfect. Yeah. And that's a great way to end. So there we are, the June roundup of those episodes. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining, Cheryl.
Thanks, Sheila. See you in July.
Okay.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Today's interview is in the category of mental wellness. I'm speaking with Dr. Wade Wilson about mental performance. And no, it's not Wade Wilson from Deadpool fame. Our Wade is working hard to launch a digital publication called Mentor Magazine. It will be an applied-focused resource for individuals looking to include some sports psychology, mental performance into their programs. And the goal is to guide readers to unlock their hidden potential with practical strategies across various aspects of life. Welcome, Wade.
Excellent. Thanks. Great to be on the show.
Dr. Austin Wade Wilson has a number of degrees, including a PhD from University of Waterloo in Recreation and Leisure Studies, and a master's degree from University of Windsor in Human Kinetics with a focus on applied sports psychology. He has a CMPC certification as a certified mental performance consultant and close to 20 years of experience in the field of sports psychology and mental performance. And by happy coincidence, I work with Wade's wife, Amanda, who connected us. So Wade, through Amanda, I heard about your work with mental performance, and it's a term I hadn't heard before. So I'm intrigued to learn more about it because I see a close connection to well-being. So at a high level, how do you describe mental performance as a field?
Yes, so mental performance is, we can refer to it as engaging our cognitive abilities and skills that impact how we think, feel, and perform, and in the sport context or in the competitive performance context. The field looks at applying these techniques or these skills to enhance our cognitive abilities to improve our probability of success. So, yeah.
And I know through your magazine, you'll be talking about practical strategies associated with mental performance. Give us an example of what some of the practical strategies might look like.
Absolutely. Things we've probably heard of before already, like self-talk strategies, reframing, trying to find the positives in our learning situations, managing our energy, breathing techniques, or psyching ourselves up, getting ourselves prepped and ready to perform, pre-game routines, pre-performance routines. Probably heard the term mental toughness as well, can kind of throw that in there. Imagery, visualization. So there's a variety of tools and strategies that we utilize to improve our probability of success.
I take it, I know you've been working with sports teams, but what other kinds of groups do you work with on these matters?
Post-secondary students, high school students. I've worked in other contexts. Mental performance applies great in business and sales, military. I've had the opportunity to work with individuals going through police training, firefighter training, EMS training as well. So there is a variety of contexts that mental performance can translate into.
I know that from personal experience, so I run some marathons and I listen to lots of stuff heading into it about things to say to yourself or things to think about when times get tough. And I know it makes a really big difference. What I like about what you're talking about is it sounds like regular people like me can be taught real strategies that I can employ. And I know from my experience that those work. And it sounds like you have lots more to tell us about.
Absolutely. It's applying these mental strategies, these cognitive strategies in the everyday context. I want my clients to feel good, to even when times are tough, to be able to know they have, the resolve to be able to kind of push through. And those, like for those marathons, when you're late on kilometer 20 or something like that, and it's like, what are you going to say to yourself at this point? Where do you want to direct your attention and your self-talk and those types of things? So I think it's definitely applicable in everyday life. I think back to my, driving test or something like that. Managing those nerves, managing those sensations, the perspective, understanding what's going on in the body at these certain times and how we might be able to employ some strategies or some techniques to keep us focused on the task at hand and direct our attention at what's important in that moment.
I've always been a proponent of positive reinforcement, including talking to myself. Just wondering, like when it comes to things like self-talk, is a lot of the self-talk kind of positive type reinforcement to yourself?
We would like it to be. Just in general, talking or being kind to ourselves, I don't think that's something that we as human beings do enough in general. So I think right off the bat, most of our self-talk would tend to be negative. Have you given yourself a compliment today or had a self-statement, something positive or, a positive feeling or noticing something that's, uplifting or pleasant in your environment? So I would say most of it is probably negative. And especially when, you're approaching something that might cause you stress, that's when the inner critic or the negative reminders start to bombard us. And, how can we be able to kind of put up that force field around us to keep us focused on the task at hand and regardless of what that noise is around us.
I really like brainstorming as well. And I saw when I was looking at some of the resources that one of the practical strategies is creative problem solving. So is that something like you get people to practice? What does that look like in terms of a practical strategy?
Sure. So I would include that perhaps in, say, a goal setting approach, where we would kind of, identify the goal, the objective, and then the end place we want to be. And then we would break it down further. Well, and what are some things that we can measure, can track our success over however long this is going to take. And then from there, breaking it down into the process, which is your day-to-day stuff. So think of it like a pyramid. Process is the first level, and then to the performance, and then to the outcome is the very small thing at the top. The things I do in my process give me a higher probability of achieving my performance, which in the end give me a higher probability of reaching the outcome. But I also have to know in the back of my mind that the outcome, especially in competitive sports or competition, is usually decided by other people. So it's not really 100% guaranteed.
That's a really important focus of my own. And I know from personal experience, I've really learned to focus on the process and to really not focus on measuring success by the outcome. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons is for what you just said. There's too much of the outcome is outside of my control. I used to listen to a podcast called Marathon Talk, and they talked a lot about focusing on the process. So it's something that really works. And how does that fit into what you guys teach?
Yeah, it's kind of hand in glove. Focus on the process. We have the vision, the motivation, the goal. We plot out the course. We write out the course. We put it where we can see it, and then we hit the process. And that's, what are we doing day in and day out that ups our probability? And now not every day is going to be great, right? True. And back to the kind of creative problem solving. And I always include kind of in the goal setting, like, let's be aware of some obstacles that we might encounter as we try to achieve our goal. For competitive performance, rest and recovery is so very important. So sleep, how can we prioritize our sleep instead of, spending more, our free time on social media? Or what if, other responsibilities come into our way? For the student athletes I used to work with was exam time and things like that. So how might we mitigate this if this comes up? Or if this happens, how can we be prepared, kind of thing? My clients get a little, well, they kind of snicker. I always say ABPs, always be prepared, kind of thing. If we have to adapt, we're okay. If we have to wait, we're okay. We have things to occupy us. If we have to speed up, our pregame routine, we can do that as well. It's so just being able to kind of adapt to what the circumstances or what the environment is giving us in that moment.
When I think about things that I'm kind of proud of in terms of what I achieved or things that I really remember well, so many of them are not when things went perfectly, but like you said, not every day is a good day. And a lot of the really great memories are facing a challenge, facing a failure, and then finding a way forward. And does that factor into what you're teaching, for example, athletes, where you're like, look, it's going to be rough. You're going to have a bad, and here are some things you can try in those moments?
Yes, absolutely. Like, especially in competitive sports, I can't make a mistake. I can't fail. Fear of failure. And it's not just in competitive sports, it's in daily life. It's something that we all deal with. Like, we all deal with the 3 C's. And I forget the book, but I think the author is Jay Shetty. He talks about the 3 C's of comparison, criticism, and complaining that, we all do to ourselves, and especially the comparison and how it plays into our fear of failure. So yeah, we're working and designing strategies and helping our clients adopt the maybe adjusting the attitude for the moment, right? Or kind of recognizing perception versus perspective, or urgency versus importance, these types of things, and where their control really lies. And sometimes it starts with taking a really deep breath and what's next? What can I do now? Yeah, being able to decide and work within those to get the best possible outcome for the moment.
Tell us a bit about the Mentor magazine you're working on, and when you're hoping to launch, and what it's going to look like.
Yeah, so the Mentor magazine is something that my wife and I came up with over the past year. For a while, I've been trying to figure out how to design a product, design a resource that can reach a large audience, learn or have access to the skills, the techniques that the elite athletes have, or the people that can, pay for them have, and stuff like that. So it's like, I think this information, this content, everyone should be able to access it if they wish, kind of thing. And it's something that is going to be a broad-based mental performance product, and it's going to cover hopefully the breadth of the mental performance field. New research is being constantly put out. But what the magazine I'm hoping is going to be a credible, it's definitely going to be evidence-based, bite-sized, digestible content that clients, athletes, coaches, parents can utilize, pick up, read, understand, and apply it right there in that moment. So it's kind of like the mental performance coach at your fingertips, so to speak.
And when are you thinking that this might launch?
We are looking to have an official launch for the start of the upcoming calendar year, so January 2025.
Fantastic. So what we should do is you and I should try and connect once it's ready to launch, and then we can talk more about what it actually is and how you can find the practical strategies. And if people are interested, then just click on it and see what it's all about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Things are happening right now. We're getting the accounts, getting everything linked up, getting everything, kind of the foundation built, and then we'll be ready to go and, have a lot of fun doing it.
I think back to when I was thinking about launching the podcast and getting everything ready, and it was a pretty exciting time. So I wish you a lot of luck in this time period. Now, there's a question I ask every guest. Before I turn to that, though, I'm just wondering, is there anything else you wanted to tell us about mental performance?
Yeah, I guess one more thing to add would be just kind of the terminology. Some things can get used simultaneously, and there is a difference between the term mental performance and the term sports psychology. Here in Ontario, the term psychology is protected, and also by proxy, the term sports psychology. So we can't call ourselves sports psychology consultants. So the term mental performance is used. And if you're looking for credible, up-to-date information on that, you can check out the Canadian Sports Psychology Association website, which also has a directory of all professional members. And you can also check out the Association of Applied Sports Psychology website. And that is the association that we have the new CMPC, the Certified Mental Performance Consultants. So these are individuals that have gone through the rigorous mentoring process, the educational process. There's a certified exam now. So it's a registered title. It's very exciting times for the field. So if you're looking for who's credible, who's, got, their CMPC, or they're in Canada right now, we're working on everybody. It's all coming together as one for North America. Yeah, there's member directories on both of those websites, and you can pull up lists of anybody that put in the work to practice mental performance in North America. So it's a great resource.
Well, one of my favorite expressions is the more you know how much you don't know. And but having said that, I was surprised to hear about this as a certified field that I didn't even know existed, which is so helpful in terms of people achieving goals, whatever they may be. So it really sounds interesting. So here we are at the end of the interview, and we ask every guest the same question in the context that we're a show that explores various areas of wellness. And we know that it's really hard to keep them all going at any given time. And so we do essentially a mini wellness check-in. So today, Wade, are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing you could do to foster wellness in that area?
Absolutely. And definitely neglecting an area. I think there's always an area that kind of, if depending on where we are, and what's going on in our lives, there's going to be one or two that are kind of at the top, and a couple that kind of just get pushed aside. Because like you mentioned, there's, the juggling act, and it's very difficult to focus on everything all at once. And so for me right now, it's occupational is going great. Mental performance, working and supporting athletes and clients and helping them reach their goals. Magazine, starting something interesting like that. So family's great. It's the physical and mental. I kind of put those together because the more active I am, the more I want to engage in meditation. And I have a YouTube channel that I like, so it's just, they're 10 minutes, they're great. But if as soon as I start one, I'm going to feel inclined to do the other. The kicker is I got to figure out where to put it in the morning routine or in the evening routine or something like that. But I need to chain it to something. It's like after I walk the dog in the morning, right after I feed her, before I get my coffee or something like that, I sit down, close my eyes. I got to chain it onto something and figure out where it can flow into the sequence.
Well, I hope you do. I've just recently had an experience. So I do a lot of physical stuff. One of the things I've been doing for the last about 6 months is walking to work, and then I take a bus home. And for reasons out of my control, the last month I had to work from home. I was realizing, so today I finally was able to walk to work again. And I was realizing in the last few days, I've been kind of grumpy. Work seems harder. Things are more frustrating. And I realized, like it's so silly because I talk about this all the time and yet I forget. And I realized, you know what? I've been out of my routine. I'm not getting my physical in. And I think it's affecting a lot. I'm not like listening to my book on the way to work and everything is turning into a grind. So just so important to do that physical for the mental. So I hope you can find time for your meditation.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm going to get it in. As soon as you sit down, decide to do it, make that choice, it's there. So
yeah, it's amazing how that works. Look, it's a really interesting topic. I'm going to enjoy having you back in, say, January or right when the launch is happening. And thanks for letting us all know about this field. It sounds like we can all make use of it.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting together again and chatting about the magazine and continuing to talk about mental performance.
This is info for new listeners. The points I'm about to make, you can find them in past episodes or in my book, Accidentally Well by John Webster, which I invite you to read. But at high level, just a quick explanation why we cover so many topics on this show, a wide spectrum. I had an epiphany about wellness and how to achieve it. There's 3 steps to it. First, identify my categories of wellness, my areas of wellness. Second, figure out real activities you can do to foster each area. And hey, start doing those activities. And third, develop a wellness check-in. The wide spectrum relates to step 1, my categories of wellness, my areas, because I have 8. Artistic, environmental, spiritual, physical, intellectual, economic, social, and mental. These are all areas that are important to me for my wellness. And that's why in some shows we're talking about physical wellness. Sometimes we talk about spiritual, sometimes social, we talk about mental, we talk about artistic. All these things are intertwined. So enjoy. There's a thought. Popped up while running. I was trying to think of a handle to use that's not really a nickname. I've had lots of handles on things like games, or even in the old days there was something called a bulletin board. I had a nickname in high school. I didn't pick it. Other people picked it. I didn't mind it, but I didn't want to go back to using it. I had some other nicknames. But what's happening is I'm starting to talk on a Zoom call as part of a group that I like chatting with, people talking about topics that I'm interested in. And there's another John W. That person's been there for a while. So John W, I'm John W. So far I said, well, just call me Other John, which is kind of funny. So on Zoom, I'm Other John. And then I remembered something. I had actually gotten something from my dad. He had found this thing about the origin of the name Webster, where it came from. And it turns out that Webster is tied to an occupation in Old English. It comes from the word Websterer, which means a female weaver. And it's the feminine of web or Weber. And so I thought, hey, maybe I should start using web, W-E-B-B. And I also thought it was kind of interesting that when I read this, that it's the feminine. So I don't know, does that mean I'm in touch with my feminine side? Who knows? I'll try and remember next time I'm on that call, I'll say, call me Web, because I don't want to be like Webster. A lot of people in hockey, they call it Webby. Don't want to use one of my nicknames. Maybe that's what I'll do.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of the Adventures of the Starving Artist. I'm sure you've heard the expression, oh, it's got your name on it. As in, this is waiting for you, or this was made just for you, right? It's got your name on it. I want to tell you a quick story about a gig I had this past weekend where that was true, and literal. Something literally had my name on it. So it was a gig here in town at a tennis club, part of a recurring concert series, and I was asked to play as a drummer in the band. And I love playing drums. It's one of my favorites. So I show up and we do our setup, do a little sound check, things are good, and we head off to the green room. Now the green room is where the band waits before they perform. And they're often not actually green, but this one was, which was cool. Here's where it gets kind of fun. The venue name at this tennis club, it's like a restaurant, it was called The Cameron, which is kind of fun, but it gets even better. In the green room, there was a piano, and as I'm sure you can imagine, if there's a room where I'm supposed to kill time and there's a piano, well, I'm playing the piano. And so, I see the piano from the corner of my eye, so I go and sit at it. And lo and behold, painted on the front face of it is my name. It says The Cameron right there in great big letters. So there's a picture on my Instagram if you're curious, but a piano literally had my name on it. How could I resist playing it? Yeah, it was kind of fun. I wish, sort of, that I could have played drums and piano, and we could have just wheeled that bad boy out there for the gig, but alas, can't do both at once. Or I suppose not with that attitude, but that'd be pretty tricky. Anyway, a piano literally had my name on it in a venue that also had my name on it. It was a fun gig. That's all I've got for you. I hope you're having a fantastic week. Maybe something has your name on it this week. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
And it's sign-off time. It's Sheila here with John.
Just John.
Just John. Elise has ditched us to play board games.
Bravo, Elise.
So we couldn't really get together before that, but she was busy tonight. So it's just John and I. And we have had a very eventful week, John.
Well, I think yours was more eventful than mine. I was home while you were doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I actually went to Featherland Farms for Pick Your Own Flower evening on Tuesday night, and that was really lovely. It was a Kindness by Kate event, and it was a self-love event. So we picked our own flowers, and all the money went towards Kindness for Kate. And that was really lovely, but surprisingly, very cold.
I know it's August, but it's feeling more like late September.
Yeah,
and I'm not complaining because I love this weather.
I do too. I do really love the cold nights, to sleep. So that's really lovely. And I had a funny thing happen to me. Your mother asked if we could make your famous Irish stew. And I knew that you were busy. So on Thursday, I was like, I'm going to make this Irish stew. And I started making it. And then you gave me tips and helped me and everything was great. Only to find out that she doesn't need it till next week.
Yeah, because you were like... You're like, I'm not sure. I think she needs it either tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah.
But it's great because you can put it in the fridge. It still tastes good for a couple of days.
Yes.
And then you found out it was a couple more days.
A week. So I had to freeze it. So that's kind of funny. And I worked 2 events this weekend. That just made it a little busier, but both of them were quite interesting. And then on Sunday, did you want to talk about what we did on Sunday?
Well, you go first and I'll catch up.
On Sunday, we got to meet Elisa's in-laws. So Stephen...
For the first time in person.
Yeah. So Stephen is American and his parents just got their passports recently. So he's been here for 6 years now, or at least they've been married for 6 years, and we've never met them. So this is the very first time we met Stephen's parents. We went up to Sauble because they were up for the weekend, only for the weekend. So we went up there, and then Elise took us to Port Elgin. And for me, that was the first time I've been to Port Elgin. And it was very lovely.
I didn't really have a picture of them in my mind. And it was really great to actually be able to meet them face to face. We had some great conversations and the setting was fantastic. I really enjoyed the beach at Port Elgin.
Yeah.
I think I've been there once, but in any event, I really enjoyed it. And Elise and Stephen are super organized. Like when you go to a beach excursion, they had this really cool tent thing that covered us all and everyone had seats and they had this amazing stuff to blow up raft type things to go in the water. I didn't go swimming that day, but it was a really great event. And the stew was fun too, making stew with you. Although it kind of felt like in Wizard of Oz, when they look behind the curtain and they see that the wizard's not that fancy, because I really love this Guinness Irish stew recipe.
Me too.
But it's really easy to make.
Yeah, it's really not that hard.
But it's so delicious.
Yeah.
So now Sheila knows that it's actually not that hard when I make it.
But it was nice to have you there just to help me.
Right.
This is what I do and this is what I've done. So that really helped.
But you were busy doing lots of stuff. I was mostly in the house, playing some catch up and doing stuff around the house.
Yeah.
So not that eventful, but I really did enjoy meeting Steven's parents. So that was great.
Me too.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us this week. We hope you can join us again soon. Bye for now.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.